Welcome. Today we're going to walk you through how veterans can get disability benefits for celiac disease. Whether you're newly diagnosed or considering filing an increased rating claim using the new 2024 criteria, we'll try to touch on everything you need to know from what celiac disease is, to how VA rates the condition, and what steps you can take if your claim has been denied.
First, what is celiac disease? Now, celiac disease is an autoimmune condition where the body attacks the small intestine when you eat gluten, a protein that is typically found in wheat, barley, and rye. Symptoms can include severe gastrointestinal issues like diarrhea, gas, bloating, weight loss, and even malnutrition, up to and including fatigue and anemia in some cases as well. Over time, untreated celiac disease can cause long-term health problems like osteoporosis, infertility, or even neurological issues. For VA purposes, it's considered to be a chronic condition and may qualify for service connection under certain circumstances.
And as Brandon noted, to get VA compensation for celiac disease, you first need to show that service connection is warranted. And there are a few different ways to do this. You can first try to establish direct service connection by showing three criteria. First, that you have a current diagnosis of celiac disease. Second, that there was an in-service event, injury, or illness. And then finally, a medical nexus linking your current diagnosis to service. And the key regulation here is going to be 38 CFR 3.303A, which states that service connection may be granted for a disability resulting from a disease or injury incurred or aggravated by active service. In simple terms, if your celiac disease was caused by something that happened to you while you were on active duty and you can prove that, VA should grant direct service connection.
So Nick had just spoken a little bit more about direct service connection. We're going to touch on some possible theories for secondary service connection for celiac. You can get service connection even if the celiac disease itself was indirectly caused by service, which is called secondary service connection. This means that your celiac disease developed as a result of another service-connected condition that you have. Secondary service connection comes from 38 CFR 3.310, subsection A, which provides compensation for disabilities which are proximately due to or the result of a service-connected disease or an injury. So plainly, if you have a service-connected condition, this could potentially cause your celiac disease, getting secondary service connection that way.
Now, it's also worth mentioning that there is a separate type of service connection that can be established called presumptive service connection, which is something created by VA regulation or court policy for veterans who routinely develop specific conditions if they served at certain times or places. But at least as of right now, celiac disease is not on any of VA's presumptive lists, meaning that there's no automatic grant based on exposure to things like Agent Orange or Gulf War toxins, at least at this point.
Let's talk about the best evidence for proving celiac disease and service connection. You'll want to have as much as possible of the following: a clear diagnosis of celiac disease by a qualified medical professional, service treatment records showing symptoms, even if it was undiagnosed at the time, medical nexus letters, which typically come from doctors, explicitly linking your condition to your time in service, or even lay statements from yourself or even family members describing symptoms that you experienced during or directly after service. The more you can show a consistent pattern of symptoms starting from service and continuing to the present day, the better your chances are of getting a granted service connection in these cases. Now, one tip is you do not need to have been diagnosed with celiac disease during your time in service. If you had digestive issues during service, even if they potentially were misdiagnosed at the time, you should review your records. Celiac may have gone unrecognized.
And one thing to keep in mind throughout this whole process is that the evidentiary standard for a VA claim is not the same as it would be in a civil or criminal court. The VA claims process is considered non-adversarial, which means that the evidentiary standard is less demanding than that required of a criminal case, for example. So rather than showing evidence beyond a reasonable doubt or preponderance of the evidence, VA is required to decide claims based on the benefit of the doubt principle under 38 U.S.C. 5107B. And this means that even if the evidence is an approximate balance, or 50-50, VA is required to rule in your favor. All you need to show is that it's as least as likely as not that your celiac disease started because of your service.
Once you've proven service connection, VA will assign your condition a rating. That rating determines your compensation and benefits. So let's discuss how VA rates celiac disease. So celiac disease is rated using what's called diagnostic code, otherwise known as a DC. The diagnostic code for celiac disease is 7355. This is in VA's rating schedule for disabilities, and this specifically refers to celiac disease. It was assigned its own code on May 19th of 2024, and the new code allows for disability ratings of 30%, 50%, or 80%, depending on the severity of the condition and its impact on the veteran. Before this change, celiac disease was most commonly rated under what's called an analogous code, like IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which in that case, IBS is capped at a max rating of 30%. Now, celiac disease having its own diagnostic code, celiac disease can be rated up to 80% based on the severity and the impact it has on the veteran. If you are rated using the older criteria, you may be able to get a higher rating if you file now by filing an increased rating claim. VA rates celiac disease based on the severity of the symptoms, including malabsorption syndrome, weight loss, systemic manifestations like fatigue and anemia, and other related complications. The 80% rating, for instance, includes malabsorption with weakness impacting daily activities, weight loss causing wasting and nutritional deficiencies, and systemic issues like dermatitis and hypocalcemia.
So the only question really left to answer is, how do you file a claim for celiac disease? And you would do that by first filing a claim using VA Form 21-526EZ, either through the va.gov website or by mail. In addition to filing and completing that form, you'll want to include evidence of your diagnosis, any service records showing that you had gastrointestinal symptoms during service, if possible, a medical nexus letter, potentially from your treating physician, as well as any personal statements that you might have about your symptoms and how they've persisted since your service. And with all that in mind, please be sure to submit everything that you have up front. VA is required to follow what's called the duty to assist under 38 USC section 5103A, which means that the department is supposed to help you collect any records and evidence that you need to support your claim. But the more organized and complete your application is from the start, the less time you'll need to spend requesting those records, and your claim may be processed more quickly as a result.
And remember, if VA denies your claim or gives you too low of a rating, which is typically common, you do have options. You can file a supplemental claim with new and relevant evidence. You can request a higher level review if you believe VA had made a mistake on a previous rating. Or you can even file a board appeal, which is filed to the Board of Veterans' Appeals. If you go the board route, you can even submit expert medical opinions or request a hearing with a veterans law judge. Just be aware that different appeal lanes at the board level can really dictate your timelines and how quickly or how long it's going to take for you to get a decision from the Board of Veterans' Appeals.
And with all of those potential review options in mind, I think the best advice we can give you is don't give up if your claim gets denied. Veterans win appeals every day, especially with the right legal help. And if you do need help with your previously denied claims, you can talk to a VA-accredited advocate or attorney who knows how to work these claims more successfully. That's all we have for today. Please let us know if you have any questions for future videos in the comments, and please like and subscribe to stay in touch. Take care.